All right, shalom, shalom. First things first, I want to give honor and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Wadash. We say Barakat Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shai, Barakat Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shai, Barakat Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Wadash. And we give double honor to our apostles and our elders, which apostle elders is a great millstone, who treat us with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Let's jump right into this video. This is a uh, question. I was doing a live stream and they cut the sound, so I figured I'd just jump on and do a lesson this way. That way I can make sure the sound comes out good, and to make sure that the point is hit, with scriptures to back up the point. The live stream title was that these nations cannot be invited into the wedding because salvation itself is going back to the first death, which was Noah. All right, everybody didn't make it in the time of Noah. Noah was saved and his family was saved, which became the progenitors of the earth that we see today, okay, through their bloodlines. That's how you, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, we can go through those bloodlines, and the Lord repopulated the planet Earth with that bloodline. So the second death is the time of the missiles, the time of the Third World War, the Third Woe, and that also is the culmination of the second covenant and the wedding of the lamb. Okay, so those are one and the same, because I said in the video in the live that once the elect is taken up into those ships, into those chariots, they're going to, that's why Esau, he needs breathing apparatuses to go into space, because there's the lack of oxygen. So if the heathens are saved, they would have to be changed right along with the Israelites that are saved, because the bodies have to be changed to be able to be in the atmosphere and the pressure level that the ships are on. It's a different environment, if you want to say that. And we're prophesying in part, but it's to show you that that's why the change must come to pass and the change must happen. So these guys that are saying that these nations can be saved, they're not looking at it at the broad spectrum of all the prophecies that are culminating to that event. Okay, and I asked chat, and chat broke it down pretty well. We'll pick out the bones as we see them, but the main point is these guys are adding unto the scriptures, which is not, that's not a good thing. All right, because through their lack of understanding or the bag or whatever it is, but this makes us improve, because now we have to dive deeper to contend for the scriptures and to break it down the correct way, and for us to have a deeper understanding through experience of these issues. That way we can actually be able to stand stronger on our insight, okay, and the doctrine that has been given to us. Okay, so the chat responded. It says, of course, this is a profound, complex topic that weaves together several key threads of biblical prophecy and theology. Let's break it down into detailed explanations, connecting the great judgment of Babylon the Great, okay, because this is where salvation is going to come out of, okay, predominantly in these areas where you can have jakes in Russia that could be delivered by way of the salvation also, because they're going to be places hit there that, and we know that through the Apostle of the Tahar breaking down the Scythians, knowing that there's jakes, that those are Israelites. They're the what you say, the historical bloodline of the Russians go back to the Scythians, which are Israelites. Okay, and it says the great judgment of Babylon the Great and the salvation of the elect, the wedding of the Lamb, and the distant. It says the distinction between Israel and the Gentiles in specific contexts. Okay, this says the following logical progression. This is how we're going to go through it. Okay, and it breaks it down, and we're just going to read the precepts and we'll give a thorough breakdown as the Spirit allows. It says the foundation, the election of the bride before creation. Okay, because they were chosen for this event. They were set apart for this event. They were set apart for this culminating of the truth. Okay, so let's read. It says the foundation, the election of the bride before creation, the context, the fall of Babylon the Great, the deliverance, the wedding of the Lamb as salvation, the wedding of the Lamb as salvation. Okay, the distinction, Israel as the bride and the nations as, and it says bride and the nations as the blessed. It says Israel as Israel as the bride and the nations as the blessed, because there's going to be an election that comes out of these nations. Okay, there's going to be an elect. There's going to be a root because Israel has been spread out through the four corners of the planet Earth. So not all Israel is going to be destroyed, or not all of the Earth is going to be destroyed in this thermonuclear exchange. There's going to be places on the planet Earth which are not destroyed, which will have Israelites there, which will have the separated or the scattered Israelites. That's who's going to be brought to the land of Israel after the deliverance is set up and the kingdom of heaven is exalted. Okay, so let's keep going. So this says the foundation, the election of the bride before creation. The entire plan of salvation includes its final consummation is not a reaction to human history, but a divine purpose. So this is a divine purpose. So it put it in a very good way, because this is a purpose that Yabashim Yahushua has set forth before the earth was even created. So now we're coming to the fruits of that, and the fruits are the elect that's been coming out of the earth. The election, if you want to look at it, is the fruits of the planet Earth that has been gone through history, because men have come back. The elect have been here off and on, okay, in different reincarnations, all right, by way of the prophets, the apostles, the elders, the Israelites, those that come in and out of the earth, okay. So even in the time of Yahushua, you have those that are coming back in the reincarnation. That's why Yahushua said, there's some here that shall not taste death. What does that mean? Because they would come back in their reincarnation, because they all fell. There's not a 2,000-year-old man walking around and claiming to be one of the disciples. Okay, it's not talking about that. It's talking about takes the death, as in the second death, which is the deliverance, because they will be in that number of those that are set to be set apart to be saved in the coming destruction. That's what Yahushua was saying, that some of you here that should not taste death. Okay, to get that, to make sure we explain that. It says the entire plan of salvation includes its final consummation and is not of human reaction. It's not a reaction to human history, but a divine purpose set in motion before time began. The elect are those chosen by Yahweh for this specific purpose. So this is why the elect were created, was to be in that time of deliverance and to be taken up and to be joined with Yahushua in the ships, because the ship is going to be the chamber. That's why the Lord said, enter into thy chambers as it was for a moment, till the indignation be past. So that is the culminate, just like you go have a bed chamber. Okay, a bed chamber is where a wedding is consummated through the act of sex. That's why women would have to present the token of their virginity after the act of sex. After the first act of the man entering into that woman, and her hyme is broken, that is what you call the culmination of that wedding ceremony. Because now that man is entered, he's put his rod into that woman and left his DNA, which can bring forth children, but also to consummate their wedding. Okay, that's how the ancient world worked. Because if she didn't present that token, that means that she was not a virgin, and that man would have to be recompensated for those 50 shekels. Okay, so that means that she cannot prove that she wasn't, the seal wasn't broken. Okay, that's just a little segue. And it says Ephesians 4 and Ephesians 1 and verse 4 to 5. It says, for he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy, set apart, and blameless in his sight. That's why Yahushua came, to culminate that and to put that into full spectrum, because now the elect are covered under the blood of Yahushua, those that believe upon that name and trust upon him and believe. That's why I said, if you believe upon me, then you believe him that sent me. Okay, blameless in his sight and love, he predestined us for adoption to sonship. Okay, bunyam, all right, where you have the sons of Israel. Okay, and it says sonship through Yahushua Mashiach in accordance with his pleasure and will. See, Revelations 13 and 8 refers to those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life from the creation of the world. So before the world was set apart, salvation was set apart for the elect through Yahushua's sacrifice, and then the culmination of the deliverance. That's what salvation is. Salvation is for that moment. Salvation isn't just salvation that you get delivered. There's deliverance that happens. You get delivered from a car wreck. You get delivered from a sinful woman. You get delivered from a bad situation. Those situations are deliverances. Salvation itself is a moment in it's a moment in history. Okay, that's why I go back to the first and the second death. The first death, that was Noah was saved. He tasted of salvation, mercy. Okay, comforted. Second Timothy 1 and verse 9. Yahweh has saved us and called us to a holy life, not because of anything we have done, but because he of his own purpose and grace. This grace was given us in Yahushua before the beginning of time. So you saying that these nations can be saved or they can be receive salvation? There's you saying that they can receive of Yahushua. And the time Yahushua said, he said it himself, going out into the ways of the Gentiles, nor into any of the cities of the Samaritans enter ye not, but rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as you go, preach saying the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So how do we go from that to where we're at now, talking about these nations can be inducted into that, when the Messiah himself told the disciples and told those that became apostles that to go into the ways of, do not go into the ways of the Gentiles or the city of the Samaritans. So what is that meaning? That means that those Gentiles that can be inducted and brought into salvation would actually have to be of the stock and the bloodline and the promised bloodline of Israelites. Okay, which are you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today, which those are your byword names that you've been called. Precepts. The elect are not merely a group of people who happen to believe. They are the specific object of God's sovereign pre-temporal love and purpose. Damn, that's a hell of a way of putting it, man. Let's read that again. The elect are not merely a group of people who happen to believe, the body of believers. So that's replacement theology, supersessionism is bullshit. That even chat, it can break it down, because the chat, the one thing about these chats which is beautiful is that they can be programmed, but they ulterior motives are hard to really push on, because it's answering your question, but all of the information that is presented, it doesn't, it just like say justice is blind. Okay, when you seeing it, it's going through all the combination. Esau can put it together and try to, make sure it doesn't say certain things, but you can also beat the chat by asking it specific questions which narrow its parameters for you to make sure that it stays with all the information given. So it's taking all the information concerning the scriptures, the Bible, the precepts, and putting it together in a way that answers the question on point to the best of its ability, through its experiences, through the data that it has. So this is it. It's saying this is the what does it say? Occam's razor is giving you the clear-cut answer. It's not. It's that it's hard for it to go with an ulterior motive that's against your answer. Okay. It said, because if you broaden the parameters, then it can add that other bullshit that the world has presented concerning the Bible. But if you lower that parameters and you say, okay, I need a simple answer concerning what the scriptures say, that's why it's able to give you these answers this way. It says the elect are not merely a group of people, okay, who have believed they are specific objects of Yahweh's sovereign pre-temporal love and purpose. They are not, it says they are the bride chosen for the Son. That's why Yahushua said, blessed those that thou hast given me, because the elect were given to Yahushua as his own personal, as his bride, and as those that he is his lot. Okay, it says number 2, the context. The fall of Babylon the Great. Babylon the Great in Revelation symbolizes the entire world system in rebellion against Yahweh. See, but where's the headquarters of Babylon the Great? We got to ask that. Where is it located? Location, location, location. Where is it located? It's located in America today. That's the capital of Babylon the Great, but it has city states. You have the Vatican, okay, and then you have England, which is the banking system, okay. Then you have America, which is the military might and the capital of Babylon the Great, okay. And it's ruled by Edom, and it's prophesied to be ruled by Edom in the time of the coming of the Messiah, okay. And it says Babylon the Great is in Revelation symbolizes the entire world system, which that system is going to culminate to the beast system, which is the MOTB, which is which is coming upon us faster. Okay, they're talking about cash is going to be dead in so many days. All these things that they're saying is to show you that they're ready to bring the system. It says he knoweth that he hath but a short time, so he has to push this agenda quickly, or he's not going to have the opportunity to push it at all. Okay, it says It says its political, economic, and religious structure, and I just said it. You have the political, which is going into Babylon, the Great America; economic, which goes into the Bank of England; the oppression, the religious, which is the Vatican. Okay, structure built in idolatry, oppression, and sedition away from the true power. Its judgment is necessary purpose to revelation of Yahweh's kingdom. So the Lord has to take this place out for the kingdom to come. Revelation 17 and 1 to 5. She is called the great prostitute who commits adultery with the kings of the earth. And how does America commit idolatry with these nations? By way of that philosophy. That's why I think it was Kenya, but the lady went over there. I forget her damn name. She's so out of the picture. She went over there with a checkbook, supposed for the happy people, for those that are we wishy-washy. I'll say that much. And they said, no, we don't want that. So that's how they give you through their funding, through their aid. Okay, you see the USAID aid or whatever office with the Doge situation. They came out to show you that they're committing heinous acts through the guise of aid and helping. All right, it's a Trojan horse. It says oppression, Revelations, it says it is called the great prostitute who commits adultery with kings of the earth and makes the inhabitation of the earth drunk with the wine of her adulteries. This is spiritual unfaithfulness. Okay. Revelations 18:2 to 3 and 24. Babylon is a center of global commerce. That's who else is that? Who else has the petrodollar status? Okay. The British pound, was once king. Now the dollar holds that spot. So there's no way that you can say that this is not Babylon the Great, because it's breaking it down. Babylon is a center of global commerce. Where do they send all the products and the stuff to build houses and different products, and this is a consuming nation, consumers. Okay, Babylon is the center of global commerce and demonic influence. Golly, getting down, chat. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of Yahweh's holy people. And how can we codify this one? Because the Lord said that David, your king, will be taken into slavery too. So we can say that the transatlantic slave trade, which America was a major stop on that journey, the blood of prophets, men that came, because prophets have come back and reincarnated, and we can give you an example by the man named Abba Bivens, okay, which we believe through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, starting with our apostles and elders, that he is Elijah coming back in the reincarnation to give forth that, to fulfill that prophecy of turning the hearts of the children back to the fathers and the fathers back to the children. Okay, so those that can receive it, prophets have come back in their reincarnation and have died here. Okay, Abba Bivens passed away in the landmass of Babylon, so that prophecy can be said to be fulfilled. Okay, was found the blood of prophets and of Yahweh's holy people. Her judgment is a direct response to her persecution of the elect. See, Revelation 18 and 4 to 5. A voice from heaven cries out. It says, "Cry out." What voice is? Because it's going to be the chariot. The Lord is going to be in a majestic ship, and he's going to call out and deliver the elect. And it says, "Come out of her, my people." It didn't say nations. My people, possessive. So that's who's going to be called up into that salvation. It's not talking about anybody else. Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues, for her sins have piled up to heaven, and Yahweh has remembered her crimes. Rape, rob, and murder of the nation of Israel. Woe unto you that increaseth that which is not his. Okay, the list goes on and on. Isaiah the 24th chapter. Okay, he that destroyeth the earth, he that destroyeth the earth, the Lord will destroy. The precepts go on and on that this man is guilty of. Okay, precepts. The call of Yahweh's people to come out of Babylon is the call to separate. The call to separate. Salakia is the call to separate from the world system. This is a moment of crisis and separation immediately preceding the final judgment. This is the moment of crisis and separation immediately preceding the final judgment. Okay, the missiles. The salvation of the elect is in this context is the protection and deliverance from the judgment falling upon the world system, where system they were once part of, because we are called out of the system. We are a part of it, but those that deny the MOTB, those will be those that have rejected it. That's why it says they shall come out of great tribulation, because our lives will change. We're not going to be able to be in the system the way we once was. Okay, we're not a part of it anyway, so that's why the Lord is calling us out. That's why it's also known that they're known as the virgins. Okay, having that virgin have not been defiled by the ways of this world, namely having that entered into you. That's why once you take that mark, there's a bloodletting, and they have to put a cloth which goes into the what? The token of virginity. Those that have taken that will actually have bled, and they use a white cloth or a gauze, which dabs up the blood, which is the same thing as presenting a token of your virginity, okay? But you've given it to the devil. It says the deliverance, the wedding of the Lamb as salvation. See? The ultimate salvation and deliverance for the elect from the doomed system of Babylon is not just an escape, but an entrance into most intimate and joyous union imaginable. Let's go, chat. Let's go, chat. Somebody give chat a megabyte, man. Somebody feed chat, man. He getting down, man. Golly, let's read that again. The ultimate salvation and deliverance for the elect from the doomed system of Babylon is not just an escape, but an entrance into the most intimate and joyous union imaginable, the marriage supper of the Lamb. Golly, man. Get down, chat. Salakia, I said, man, it's exciting, man. It is. It's the most joyful. It's what we all been waiting for. Creation groaneth. It's waiting for this moment, man. It's waiting for. This is the man. Yahushua deserves it, man. He gave his life. He died on that cross for this moment, man. Now he's getting ready to eat the fruits of his righteous labor, man. Call halal. Revelation 19:1-9. This passage follows directly after the pronouncement of Babylon's fall in chapter 18, verse 1-6. Heaven erupts in praise for Yahweh's true and just judgment on the great prostitute, Babylon. Babylon, what Benjamin say, Babylon. You see? Okay, verse 7-9. Let us rejoice and be glad and give him glory, for the wedding of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready. And how's the bride making herself ready? By getting into the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and have taken the breath, okay, going back to Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, and has put and joined themselves unto the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, the right doctrine. That's how you're joining yourself. You're making yourself ready. Okay, these guys are gonna be found wanting. They're not gonna be let into they don't have the oil, man. They don't have enough oil. Don't matter how much oil your lamp had, you didn't grab extra. So you lit your lamp, and sometimes it takes a while for that lamp to burn out. So these guys they trim their lamps by coming into this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, but they didn't have enough oil to maintain and to keep that light lit. That's why you see these guys transforming, or they took a bag, or whatever the fuck happened. That's on them. That's between, what does it say? That's between them and the Most High, man. But that's why we are here set up as a defender of the gospel, and to show you that Yahbashim Yahushua is not dealing with any wayward doctrines, man. There's only one way in and one way out concerning salvation. It says, let us rejoice and be glad and give glory, for the wedding of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready. Fine linen, bright and clean, was given to her to wear. Fine linen stands for the righteous acts of Yahweh's holy people. Then the angels say, blessed are those who are invited. See? Invited. These nations are not invited to the wedding of the Lamb. So how can they be salvation? How can they receive salvation? They are not joined unto the wedding of the Lamb. They're not the bride. They're not the elect. So there's no way. They're elected. The salvation is hand in hand with the wedding of the Lamb, man. Okay, I wasn't trying to rhyme there. The salvation of the elect is tied in with the wedding of the Lamb. So there's no way that any other nation, any other person, first and foremost, isn't an Israelite and then be of the elect of the Israelites and be taken into those ships, which is the wedding chamber, the bridal chamber, and the culmination of the wedding of the Lamb. It's simultaneous. So somebody fucked up. Okay? It says then the angels say, blessed are those who are invited to the wedding supper of the Lamb. Connection. The judgment of the prostitute Babylon, the wedding of the bride, the elect, are two sides of the same eschatological event. Let's go, champ. To be delivered from the first is to be present. Golly, listen close. Listen close. To be delivered from the first is to be presented at the second. This wedding is the culmination of the covenant promise of salvation. The bride's identity, the New Testament explicitly identifies the bride as the redeemed people of Yahweh, the church, which is built upon the foundation of the apostles and the prophets, in which we know that they're back, with Mashiach as the cornerstone, Ephesians 2:9 to 2:19 to 20. This entity is fulfillment of Yahweh's promise to Israel. The garment of salvation. It says the bride's fine linen is not her own righteousness, but the righteousness of Mashiach, or the Mashiach, imputed to her and demonstrated through her sanctified life. This connects back to being chosen to be holy and blameless, Ephesians 1-4, and we read that. Okay, the distinction of Israel as the bride and the nations are as blessed. Okay, because you're gonna have nations, Israelites coming out of these other nations. Okay, it says this is crucial point of distinction in the narrative of Revelation. The bride is a specific covenant people. The other nations or Gentiles are a distinct group who are blessed through the establishment of this covenant, but are not the bride itself. I don't know what the hell they talking about here, because you're gonna have Israelites coming out of these other nations. Summary and conclusion. The origin of Yahweh's internal decree before creation, where people are chosen in Yahweh Shai Mashiach, the elect. Okay? The fulfillment, the deliverance is their deliverance into the wedding of the Lamb. The wedding is ultimately expressed of the new covenant, where Mashiach is unified forever with his purified and glorified people. Come on, champ. All right, Lord willing, edifying lesson. I'm going to leave it there. The point has been made. Call halal Yahbashim Yahushai. Beautiful times we're living in. All right, these guys that are coming out with these wayward doctrines just push us to go further into it. And we have help of these other, tools to push forth the doctrine the right way. So I leave it there. Lord willing, edifying lesson. With that, I say call halal Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem Chakwadash. Until next time, I say shalom and more, and I'll never keep faith. Shalom.